My name is David Krucoff. I'm a third-generation Washingtonian. If I was to write an autobiography, I would call it Connecticut Avenue. So I have deep roots here. I have great caring for the city in which I grew up. I presently live in the state of Maryland. Taxation representation is sort of a tenet of our heritage as United States citizens. The concept is that we have a democratic republic that you contribute to it and you get to be part of it. So it's fundamental to the Boston Tea Party. It's fundamental to being a full citizen in the United States, and it's something that is unjust in relationship to the citizens of the District of Columbia. I think that my long-term goal would be to move back into the city and to run for the non-voting representative in the House. That would be a goal of mine, which I hope to be able to do. So we'll see. That's an aspiration, yeah. The Constitution is almost a worship document in this country. And it's a fantastic document. But it's flawed. And they knew they might have flaws. That's why they made it amendable. But amendments are extremely difficult to get through. One of the fundamental flaws of the Constitution of the United States was the creation of the District of Columbia and how they did that. And they compounded the problem because the Constitution says the District of Columbia can be up to 10 miles square. So they took that literally and made it exactly 10 miles square. So they maximized what they could do to make the District of Columbia. And the District of Columbia really should be more like Vatican City. It should be a small government enclave where no one lives. And that's what it should be, and it's not. And unfortunately, the Constitution doesn't allow the citizens of the District of Columbia to participate fully in our democracy. And we are, if I could say we, I'm not a member of the district right now, but as somebody who has great affinity with people of the district, and as somebody who grew up there, we are sort of bastardized citizens. It's an odious thing. It is, in my mind, as I wrote in this document here, it is the #1 human rights issue in our country right now. It's not voting rights, for having potentially driver's licenses in some areas, or it's not gerrymandering. That's all that stuff is bad, or it could be bad, or there could be changes. Those stuff pales to the condition that we have in our nation's capital when we have over 650,000 people who don't have the rights to be represented correctly. It's a terrible situation. And I know about it, and I speak about it, and I understand solutions to it, and I'm happy to share those with you. The primary method to alleviate this problem or to fix this problem is called statehood for the District of Columbia. It's not going to happen. There's a variety of reasons why it won't happen. It's never happened. The solution that is most obvious and that has happened, already has occurred, is technically called retrocession, or I would like to call it reunification with the state of Maryland. It's an obvious answer. So I was getting to the point where I talked about the fact that D.C. was up to 10 miles square. Well, it was to 10 miles square. And there was a substantial portion, maybe, 30% of the district was on the other side of the Potomac, was taken out of the counties of Arlington and Alexandria, I guess, at the time. That portion, which was ceded to the federal enclave, when it fell back into Virginia, it retroceded. So that's the process of retrocession. That has occurred. Arlington, Virginia, the citizens of Arlington, Virginia, and the portion of Alexandria that was part of the district at the time, vote for Congress. They have they have senators. And it works. And it has not been contested in the courts. And it exists. It happened in the late 1840s, and it is the obvious answer to the problem. Now, why won't statehood happen? Well, it's a variety of reasons, but mostly it gets down to senators. There's just no chance that there's going to be the political feasibility to elect 2 more senators, to have 102 senators, 102 more, and 2 more definitely Democratic senators. It's not politically a way to have there's no middle ground to get there. Does the representative have a chance eventually? Could we get to some halfway measure and the DC representative get a vote on the floor? It's possible. I could see that happening, and I would endorse it. We're not going to have senators. We're not going to become the DC is not going to become a state. Okay, the one thing that our representative in Congress has been supposed to do is to advocate for getting DC representation. She got elected first in January of 1991. Eleanor Holmes Norton is articulate. She's respected. She's got certain issues that I might point out, but overall, she's been an advocate for DC for a generation now, but she's failed. Statehood has failed. It's not going to happen. It's time to get solutions. It's time to say, let's get to business and let's figure out a way to have hundreds of thousands of people fairly represented and have a voice. And reunification with Maryland is the solution. And it's very simple. DC would become a county in the state of Maryland, except for a small monumental core where no one lives. We could call it Douglas County after Frederick Douglass, which is DC. And there would be some state functions that would be in Annapolis, but it would basically function as a city county, just like Arlington, Virginia functions. And it would benefit the state of Maryland for economic reasons because DC is booming. DC is the heart is the capital of the free world in many ways. And the per capita income average in DC is high. So Maryland would benefit. And of course, the citizens of DC would benefit because they would have rights. So that's what I'm all about. The Virginians wanted slavery, and slavery wasn't being practiced in the same way north of the Potomac River as it was south of the Potomac River, so they wanted to retrocede and to have that. Okay, so they had a bad reason. I think that politically, DC and Maryland are of one mind for the most part. They are very liberal states, or very liberal political. I don't know what your DC is. DC is a municipality. They're politically liberal. Maryland historically has not wanted it. Maryland doesn't know. Maryland doesn't care. Maryland gets its cake and eats it too, same way that Arlington does. Can we make sure that commuter taxes aren't levied on people in Maryland and Virginia if there's Douglas County? Yes, we can take measures to do that. Maryland is, well, thank goodness they have a good governor now who's switching out the economics of the state. But Maryland has been broke. Maryland overspends on lots of things, and its economy has struggled. Its companies vacate and go across the river. Maryland, Montgomery County, I like to say, is really about the preservation of wealth, where Fairfax County is really about the development of wealth. When I was a kid, Montgomery County was probably the second or third wealthiest county in the country. Now it's probably in the top 10, maybe the top 15, where Fairfax County and Loudoun County have just ascended. There's reasons for that. I mean, Maryland chases away business. Maryland doesn't know what to do a lot of times. Maryland has a very good education program, which is its strength. But Maryland is in trouble. And Maryland would greatly benefit from the enormous wealth in the District of Columbia. DC is wealthy and successful, and it's not Marion Barry days. Okay, this is District of Columbia days of smart management, of thoughtful people. Sometimes they get a little ahead of themselves with liberal policies that might be too far on the left, but for by and large, DC is making good decisions. DC's, even its education system is improving. They're making investments in their schools. It's getting better. DC is doing well. It will continue to do well. Maryland would greatly benefit from having the overwhelming majority of the District of Columbia within its confines as a county. It would be great for Maryland. It doesn't exist. I mean, but that's always been a red herring presented off by people who would be scared of DC having full rights as a state or as a part of a state, that they could tax. So what happens is in the District of Columbia, as you probably know, DC's got a population of 650,000 roughly, and then in the daytime during a work day, even during the daytime on a non-work day, the population is precipitously increased by commuters, by tourists, by a variety of folks. But then they use our streets, they use our services, but they go back and they don't pay for them. So that's the concept of a commuter tax. There's places in the country that have commuter tax. Well, they don't want to have that. If you live in Virginia and you're having your cake and eat it too, and you're crossing the river, you don't want to have that. Okay, guess what? We'll give it up. We're not gonna tax you. We'll figure that out. If there's a tax, then you get a credit versus on your state tax. There's ways to do these things. It's called bargaining. You figure things out. That's what's wrong with the Congress and our president. They don't bargain. I mean, then the only time the president bargains is with overseas stuff, and he does a horrible job. I mean, they don't bargain. You don't have to give something to get something. That's what I'm all about that. So let's say that the Republicans are too strident about gun laws. They're too stupid about that. Okay, so let's give up some gun laws. Well, what are we going to get in exchange from the Democrats at the same time? It's called a deal. You do a deal. Maybe there's something the Democrats don't want to protect, like, maybe it could be that the retirement age could be increased, because everybody knows that we're going broke in this country. So therefore, maybe in exchange for gun laws being more difficult, you could have the retirement age raised. They're not related, but that's the way you get deals done. That's what I would do. DC people always say, right, we can go fight in wars, but we can't vote for right, about the wars.
So there have been a lot of, we'll call them social justice
amendments
which have corrected the Constitution.
Right. So what's different?
Like
what's different about that? I can tell you what's different about that. Okay, so there's women in all states. There's blacks in all states. There's no only DC residents here, okay? So there's no incentive. There's no incentive for them to pass, 2/3 of the Congress and then 3/4 of the states, and then you get it signed by the president. First signed by the president, then there's no incentive. It's only going to be, if it was attempted before in 1978, as you do know, when there was a Democratic House, Congress, and a Democratic president, and it went nowhere when it got to the states. And that was not for a 51st star on the flag. That was for a hybrid system, which would have been great. It failed. It's time to try something that already worked. Retrocession or reunification has already worked. This is so fundamental. It's a fundamental right. In the district, you don't have senators. You don't have a congressperson. You don't have the right to pass your budgets. You have to have your budgets looked at by Office of Management and Budget and then signed off by the House or however it works. In the Senate, it's not fair. I want the citizens of the city to have rights to vote for people that have votes on the floor of the Congress or in the Senate. It's a deal. And then later on, guess what? You can get people who are for more gun control and they can pass law against it. It's not going to be like some type of charter that says only you get this right if you have these gun laws, and if you take away these gun laws, you lose the right? Is that going to be part of the law? I don't think so. You take it. You know what? I don't want incremental change. I want reunification with Maryland. But I'll take incremental change. I'll do that. I would advocate for that if I was the person down there. I would get things done, sure. Would I stop there? No. But they blew it. The liberal establishment, Eleanor Holmes Norton, the civil rights movement have failed DC in this category. Okay? It's time for a pragmatic approach. That's basically what it gets down to. At the heart, I'm a little more conservative than a lot of DC residents. I'm a pragmatist. I'm a deal maker. I'm not stupid. I'm not devout on something. We'll get things done.